All right. Hello, and welcome back. For those of you who are tuning in via YouTube, hello, and welcome back to my channel. For LinkedIn and Facebook, also, I want to say welcome back to my page. So I'm going to get right into it. My name is Brenda Williams, and I am a soulful biz coach for highly sensitive, empathic, female identified entrepreneurs, leaders. I am also a talk show host of the Brenda Williams Show, and I am an intuitive. So I am going to jump right into it. So I am summoning seven lovely, soul centered, social justice rooted, spiritually called, female identified leaders into my aligned year program. And before I even get into the details of the program, we really need to, I believe, center the word alignment. I think we see it a lot in our social media lexicon, alignment, getting into alignment. And I think that there is a romanticization about this word and what it means to be in alignment. So when we think about a car getting into alignment, or if you've ever fractured, hurt, or dislocated um, leg, ankle, knee, and had to get it put back into place, whew, talk about some pain. It is not pretty. There may be some swelling, a lot of discomfort. However, when we think about alignment, also pruning or trimming or anything that is a shredding, a burning, a tearing, a loosening, a releasing, an expelling, a rebirthing, there is and can be some discomfort in that. And while getting into, once we're set in alignment, there is a sense of ease and flow. There is a sense of certainty and grounding and a certain knowing. And so I just wanted to center that first. And as we traverse into a deeper conversation, as I hope that you track with me, I definitely want to talk about what misalignment can look like and some of the spiritual indicators that you are out of alignment. So the very first one I want to talk about exhaustion. Just a sense of feeling tired, fatigue, and maybe perhaps you've tracked down that, okay, I'm getting enough sleep, I'm working out, I'm eating sufficiently, but still I feel a certain drag, I feel a certain tiredness. You're showing up, you're grinding, you're giving. And I'm from Detroit. So wherever you're tuning in from, I am steeped in a culture that literally says Detroit hustles harder. And in that consciousness, there's this sense of urgency and that we must grind, and there's a reward in that. And I recently had lunch with my mentor, so shout out to Alex. And there was something that was very cautionary to me, and I definitely want to send this love out to Black women. Breathe. Rest. It is not your responsibility for the predicaments and situations that others may find themselves in, and in particularly where this place it finds its democracy. That's not your job to be the liberator at the expense of continuating and perpetuating your oppression that falls on you. So I want to name that, and that's number one. But two, when we talk about exhaustion, this need to push in directions that are not validating, this need to push in directions that we may in a season were called to move through, but there is a sacredness in silence. there is a sacredness and especially in the way that I like to work with my clients, there is a certain feeling that I get. There's like a sense that I feel. Sometimes it comes through in colors. Sometimes it comes through in sentiments. I may ask questions because I hear a whisper. And sometimes we can get so caught up and so busy that a whisper doesn't even stand a chance to exist because we're so loud in our work and we're pushing through. And so that exhaustion, that spiritual fatigue that feels like it's coming from the inside can be an indicator that it's time to turn your attention to a different direction, that you're building on sand versus solid ground. And I want to name next in the work that we do, especially when it feels like it's noble work. So for example, I was an educator, I was a Spanish teacher, noble profession. Actually really loved my students, loved the subject, but something in my soul was calling me forward to something bigger, something a little bit, at the time I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but this idea of coaching really lit me up. So excited about it and wanted to be a midwife, if you will, to other women and femmes. And the power of girlhood. I ran a girls leadership organization for about 12 years. And in that work, I just really listened to, it was birthed because I listened to my students, to my female students, and listened to their dreams, their aspirations, but also the things that, caused them dysregulation, things that caused them pain, but also their dreaming, their wild dreaming, and their need for community and a sense of a place to belong. And the power of girlhood was then born. So there was an excitement, in it. And I'm still excited about it, even though I've sunset the organization and full-time entrepreneur, so moved out of education. What I want to name there, though, is that there starts to be a resentment and bitterness for the work. You're feeling overwhelmed. You might be feeling irritated with the work. And you might feel like this is serving people. This is doing great work because, again, I work with so many empaths that the work is really tailored around service. Looking at the social and greater good. Social justice work, noble, but can lead to exhaustion, resentment, fatigue, because while the work is noble, it is not always greatly funded. And so a lot of equity in the form of blood, sweat, and tears can go into your work. And the return, there is no return on the investment of oneself, right? Noble work, great work, but you're not necessarily getting a return on investment in the work. And even when you take breaks, when you come back, there's not a zeal or excitement going into the work. And the third one that I'd like to mention is the shrinking and shape-shifting. So you're constantly contorting. Maybe you're a third of yourself and a fourth of yourself or eighth of yourself, and you're not really showing up. You're consistently spiritually code switching. Amen. You may be dumbing your brilliance down. You may be speaking in words that are more palatable to audiences. And I'm going to tell you, like the great prophetess Erykah Badu told us, what good do your words do if they can't understand you? Guess what? That's their problem, not yours. Because for those who have the ear to hear, they will hear you. They will see you. They will witness you. There's a sister speak that I often talk about with my girlfriends about how we just know. So it's like this intonation thing that happens. It's like, girl, 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 girl. I know, right? Girl. Because girl. So there's a silent communication that just transpired that sisterhood, your sister friends, they kind of get and they understand. And so while that, of course, is indigenous to Black women, there are still communities in which you serve, or those that you're called to serve, that will just resonate with you. Your words, your story, what you have gone through, and what you're working on is enlivening. I want to make sure I'm saying that word. That it is invigorating. And so you'll know that because there's a soul satisfaction in that work. And so if you feel like you're code switching spiritually, compartmentalizing yourself, you are out of alignment. Your soul is here to expand itself, to know itself more, to know itself through, in, and as you. Your soul has a signature. So it's like, again, particularly from empaths out here, you know that there's a particular energy that exists when you walk into a room. When you walk into a space, there's a palpable energy that you can feel. And many times we focus on what we absorb versus what feels expansive, versus the energy that we bring and how that atmosphere shifts and changes. And I do believe inherently that those who are called shift the atmosphere. Those who are called to big work absolutely have a way of shifting atmospheres. And there is an opportunity, I believe wholeheartedly, to live as your full and authentic self. So these signs are not punishments. They are awarenesses to keep in mind to see if you are out of soul alignment. That everything exists in a season. And specifically, we are in a 9-year. So a 9-year means transitions, transformations, endings, closings, and rebirth and renewal are on their way. So if you are feeling stuck or stagnant, or feeling like, the things that you're trying to lift off the ground are feeling increasingly difficult, or the work that you used to do or you're currently doing isn't lighting you up in the same way. If you are also feeling a call into deeper work, I have great news for you. The soul is calling you forward. And this is why I created the program, The Aligned Year, because it really does take time to shift. And for those of you who have followed me for any length of time, you know that I recently launched a talk show. And while that now has moved up to the surface for the world to see, that has been actually several years, and I would even dare say a decade in the making. I have a podcast that I would say also too didn't come into fruition. I've been talking about it for forever. I felt like I was talking about it forever. But it wasn't until 2023 that everything lined up. And not just the ability to produce it, but who I wanted to produce it with. So shout out to Crackers and Soup, Black woman that produces my podcast. Meow. Hello, somebody. That meant a lot to me. The guests that I had on the show, these relationships, some, were over, of course, several years. Others, were in the making. And I found that it was super important to not just have guests on because of whoever was popular. In fact, my first season was predominantly all mostly solo podcasts, because I was also in the space of caregiving, and my mother would eventually make her transition. And so also operating, for those of you who may be operating a business in grief, and that carries a different energy signature, who are operating as caregivers, who are operating as parents, maybe perhaps going through a separation of a union. So things that maybe existed in terms of life cycles and life circumstances that may not have existed when you founded your organization. And we're definitely in a different social political landscape right now, especially, my nonprofit folks. So shout out to you all who are still doing the work, many times understaffed and under-resourced financially, spiritually, and emotionally. So there is a better way. And so what I want to affirm, as I'm laying out, I don't want to lay out the doom and gloom, but I also want to speak to use a pragmatic approach to spiritual functionality, right? Because what I know about God, source, spirit, is that the one life, the one power and presence is seeking to express. It is looking for willing participants to be an expression. And so as your soul has come here under contract, it is consistently unfolding. And so inside our souls lies purpose. It lies destiny. And it takes a willingness to go through shadow, go through healing, go through a daily. And the word tells us the renewing daily of your mind. And that in all thy getting, get understanding. But in order for us to do that, we got to bring ourselves to a stillness. And in stillness can lie the real discomfort, because when we are busy, we do not have to deal with our issues, our problems, our setback, any of our stuff, because it's messy there. But I'm here to help. So as your spiritual and soulful midwife, I'm here to support you in this sacred container for women and femmes who are ready to lead from the inside out, who want to drop hustle culture, who don't want to necessarily do more, but would love to be more. And what does that feel like? Well, it feels like peace. It feels like clarity. But see, you can't get clear if you can't get still. And stillness is a choice. And you can hear yourself. And that's what also happens inside this container of intuition is through my gifts of clairsentience, claircognizance, sometimes clairaudient. I can also hear things. I'm able to work with my clients in understanding their own whispers. Because again, you kind of get glimpses, but maybe the whole picture isn't unfolding before you. And so what happens is we dive more into strategy. Soul first, strategy second. Soul first, strategy second. Soul first, strategy second. I cannot stress that enough. We're talking about soul work, right? The mission of clarity, the mission of purpose, the mission of identity. Because we can have all the best strategy in the world, but without identity to line up with it, it's sabotage. And so what we want to do is move into alignment, to be in the will of the Most High, to be in the will of your own spirit and soul. And so you're calling forth a special sort of circumstances that may be called a challenge to fortify and strengthen those spiritual muscles of visualization, of meditation, of prayer, but also decree and declaration. Because see, thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be established. Hello, somebody. So if your leadership is asking for more truth and not more hustle, if your message is ready to be seen, heard, and felt, if your business is moving into more sacred territory with intention, then I want to invite you to, it's here in the show notes, to click on this alignment, this aligned year program, and book a call if you feel a calling toward this, that you again have been feeling the misalignment. Perhaps you've even gotten your own precognition. Your own dreams are becoming indicators to you that you're out of alignment. Perhaps the tears that seem to come out of the nowhere, the big cries. I know I'm not alone. The big cry that happens maybe more often. The irritation, the irritability, the maybe even disassociation, and perhaps longing for something that may feel out of reach, or the incessant need to be in control. So a lot happens in these containers of silence and surrender. And so I would love to engage with you to see if being your midwife in this is a good fit. So I want to continue to call you home back to yourself. And again, this is a feeling of peace and clarity and understanding. And so when we're clear, we can realize that we can stand up, that what we are longing for, is longing for us. And it is on the other side of our fear, our resentment, our fatigue. Everything that you're desiring is all on the other side of that. And, again, when I'm working with my clients, our body holds wisdom. The heart has just as much neurological functionality as our brain. Our gut has just as much neurological faculty as our brain. So you have brain power throughout your entire body. And so we will call those who are male identified or men, we'll call them mavericks, right? We call them geniuses because they had a hunch. Well, beloved, let me tell you something about you. You have it naturally. You were born with it. However, we don't always trust what we feel because we're conditioned not to. That we need data and we need facts. Well, guess what, friends? There are facts and data that suggest that the body holds wisdom. That what the indigenous folk, our ancestors knew, is now science is finally catching up to what we've known all along in spirit. Heart Math Institute, shout out to Heart Math Institute, where they do brain and heart coherence. They measure it. So for my statistics people and data-driven people, there is data and there's research that is suggesting that even in our dreamscapes, right, in our subconscious, it is helping us to problem solve when we can rest. Well, when your cortisol levels are down and you have the oxytocin, serotonin, and the feel-good hormones moving through you, not only do you feel good, you're in a homeostasis where you can think more clearly. And you can hear the still small voice, you can hear the whispers, and this is where I want to support you. So over the course of all 4 seasons, we will have an opportunity to do a deep dive of where you're at in that season, right? And based on that season, I'll create a meditation for you. You'll get a numerological report. You'll get one of those. And so depending on where you are in your life path, universal, where you fall in line with the universal number, depending on what personal year that you're in. So I'm 45, which 4 and 5 is a 9. So I'm personally in a 9 year, which is matching the universal year. So there's no wonder that old things, old patterns, old beliefs are falling away, and that I can no longer ignore the call of my own soul, which is to move more forward in media and in ministry. Because I have found that I do love holding space for people, but I also really love praying for people. It makes me feel really good. And there's also a regenesis and a return. Not that I've left, but really focusing back on my art, really focusing back on producing poetry and sharing it with the world, gifting it with the world. Is something that I really want to do. Y además, yo soy bilingüe. Entonces, yo necesito hablar en español un poquito más, porque hoy en día, más que nada, yo no hablo español, excepto en el caso de mis niños en la escuela, 2 veces cada semana. Pero para mí, yo quiero leer en español, escuchar la música en español y también hablar en español. So I am finding that my soul is bilingual. And there's a certain resonance that I have in my body and a feeling that I carry when I'm speaking in another language or in my other language, right? So I am going to leave you here because I know that can be a lot to digest. But I just want to thank y'all for tuning in wherever you're tuning in from. And again, this is an invitation. I want you to understand, and maybe that was, again, a breakdown of where you might be. And there could be some other indicators for you, but I'd love to jump on a call and have a conversation with it. But meditate on this. Where are you feeling a misalignment? Where are you feeling called to bigger work? And what that support can look like, having someone to walk in it with you, right? So that you're, again, staying in spiritual alignment and integrity. And again, those whispers, utterances, because God is not loud, because love is not loud. It is not boastful. It is not self-seeking. So it will look for a willing vessel. It will look for a willing participant, because God needs hands, feet, a brain to move through, right? It needs an intellectual container, your brain. It also needs a heart, and it needs a vessel, a temple, a walking evocation to express itself through. And I believe that if this resonates with you, you are that vessel. Look, I don't even want to say in uncertain times, because as a person of color, times ain't never been certain for us on the planet. But I will say what is for certain. God is. Hallelujah. Praise God. Yeshua ben Joseph is. Jesus Christ is. So when I think about the God of my ancestors and the promises that they believed were going to unfold for them, whether they got to the promised land or not, they knew that liberation was coming. And they knew that they had to stand in it. And they would sing songs and hymns and moan and pray, right? Because they knew that they were not being ignored. So here we are. Here all of us are. And I just want to stress that with this investment, you will get 90-day sponsorship on my talk show, podcast, and if you're a person of color, a full page ad in the coffee table book. And if you are not a person of color, you will be able to gift a BIPOC woman of global majority, a femme of global majority, a space inside the coffee table book, a full page ad. So just want to speak that and name that. So with love and gratitude, I see you, I witness you, I'm holding tremendous space for you. And with that, share this with someone. If this is coming through your feed, share this with someone that it may resonate with. And if this feels like a call for you, because I'm only taking seven people for this endeavor, because I do want to be clear. I want to be of the highest service and calling and love for these individuals. So with that, be well. I will check in with you very soon, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye for now.